We're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. We're back with another phenomenal episode. We're going to talk about the emergence of crowdfunding, beer, and tech in today's podcast. And all of these things are wrapped up into one really, really cool franchise based out of the Chicagoland area called Tapville. And it's my honor and privilege to have the CEO and founder of the organization on the show today. We've got Joe Tota. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about the emergence of all three of those topics today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I always like to talk about the founder's journey because, there's listeners out there that have a phenomenal concept and maybe they've had it on their heart to explore expanding via franchising, but they're you or me before we started going down that path. And a lot of times it just takes one story to get somebody to take that leap. And part of our mission with this show is to help people take that leap of faith. So I want to talk about your background before you started the business in 2016. What specifically were you doing to add value or solve problems in the world?
Yeah, so I was a professional problem solver before franchising. I was a management consultant, and I helped large companies solve their problems. That's what consultants do. So at the heart of what I did was, solving problems and helping other entrepreneurs, which at the time were my clients and were large companies. So I actually helped consult larger food and beverage concepts, some really large brands. And that was my day-to-day job. It was a 9-to-5 job. Yeah, maybe more than 9 to 5, but it was my day-to-day job. And I was working with a large amount of food and beverage clients that were struggling in the restaurant industry. And I realized that a lot of the problems that they had could be solved with technology. But they weren't really good at implementing it or training people or adopting it. So that's when I made the leap to quit my job and start my own company.
Awesome. So you quit as I always like to say, you probably quit a perfectly awesome job to go start a company. And that company was Tapville, right? What did Tapville look like in 2016 when you guys opened your first location? What do you do? I think listeners can probably guess there's something involved with probably beer taps, but what is Tapville up to?
Yeah, so Tapville is about delivering a guest experience. We use a lot of self-pour technology like you see in our training center behind me. And we opened up our first restaurant in which we had 48 self-pour taps. We had beer and wine and even cocktails on tap. And guests would come in and order food. It was a restaurant, and grab their own beer. And then what we did as a brand was we were able to really understand what the customers were pouring, how much they poured, how often they came. So we had really good data analytics on our guests, better than most restaurants. Plus, we were able to reduce some of the costs of wastage in a restaurant. We were able to reduce some of the labor costs, the things that, restaurants get headaches from every day. And from there, we slowly evolved our restaurant concept. And then about 2 years later, in 2019, we launched our first drink while you shop mall location. So we basically put taps in the middle of a mall.
That's awesome.
Chicago. Yeah. I mean, if you're ready to go shopping, I go shopping a lot with my wife, and it's not one of the best activities, but if I can go stop for a beverage, why not?
If you get a little buzz, it's a little bit more tolerable, and maybe the purse strings get a little bit looser, right? It's a win for her and it's a win for you.
And if you're a mall owner, it's a win for them too, because the guests stay longer, the dwell times are larger. Yeah. So we actually put our first drink while you shop location in a mall across from O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it didn't have food. It didn't need to. It was just taps in the middle of the mall. And then that was sort of our second location. Right around that time in 2019, we started franchising. We created an FDD. We had 2 restaurants open. We opened the mall location. We were planning another third restaurant. And that's when we decided that there was so much interest in franchising that, we should probably, take this concept and box it up, which at that time it was pretty buttoned up. So
that's awesome. I love that. So was it kind of like self-service, swipe your card, pour yourself a beer in a disposable cup and go walk around type of scenario? Is that how it worked?
That's exactly it. You grab a beer or a mimosa or a cocktail, and you can just take it, walk around the mall with it. There's some lobbying with the different local laws and
I'm
stuff.
sure there were. Yeah, I'm sure there were. Like, how were you guys able? This is the tech nerd in me. How were you able to make sure that people were of age to be able to use it? Like, that's like the number one thing I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so it's not a completely unmanned or unstaffed system. We have one staff member, which is actually nice from a labor standpoint. You can run the operation with one person because the technology does all the work, but that one person gets all the tips. So they actually make more. That's something to think about. They can make more because the technology is doing the work for them.
Right.
So,
they're just guiding people like a self-checkout cashier at Target or something kind of, and they're there to help resolve problems, right? And be nice and be a brand ambassador.
Exactly. And then by putting a location in a mall very close to a restaurant location, we can promote the restaurant at the mall and people can go visit the restaurant. So it's a way to build your brand, if that makes sense. So,
you've got all sorts of Trojan horses, man, because when we talk about your equity crowdfunding, like you've just gone about customer and franchisee acquisition in some contrarian ways that are actually like really, really, really smart.
Yeah, I want to dive into that because it's a very unique thing. And if you're an emerging franchisor, this would be a good topic to listen to right now. We'll talk about that. But anyway, just really quick. So 2019, we launched an FDD. We have a couple of locations. They're doing great. People are wanting to franchise. And then 2020 hit. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, you think about March, April, May of 2020. We all know what that was like. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting at home like everybody, and all our restaurants are closed, right? Because we had to be closed. And I'm at home and I'm like, well, what's going to happen when things open again? People are not going to want to be inside. They're going to be outside. So we developed a mobile tap room concept in April of 2020 at home. Mm-hmm. And we designed it. We sold our first unit by June. And by August of 2020, we had our first one in Western Connecticut operating. Like, it was crazy.
Cool, man. That is awesome. How did it go? How was the first mobile tap room?
It was the first one that we could ever find in the world that was a self-pour mobile tap room. Mm-hmm. And it was the first franchisable concept like that. And the operator out in Western Connecticut, a great guy, his name is Mike, a good friend of mine now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love going out there to visit him and his family. Like, they're doing great. They have a barbecue truck business. So this
cool. It's complimentary, right?
Yeah. And then in 2020, in March, we're still at home. It was kind of things were shaky in the restaurant industry. Right. I came across Start Engine, which is a equity crowdfunding platform by Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. Yep. And we filled out an application to start a campaign, and we launched a campaign. I think we launched it by June of 2020. And basically, we were offering, shares in Tapville, and we had a valuation, and anybody can invest for as little as $200. Mm-hmm. And we're running a lot of ad spend and traffic to our campaign page. And as we're doing that, all these franchise leads start pouring in that we didn't even know where they were coming from.
So cool. It was so cool. But it totally makes sense, right? It's like people that want to be an owner in your company, they've already raised their hand and say, hey, we care about you. Like, we think your brand's awesome. In hindsight, it's like, well, yeah, of course, those maybe would mine out some franchisees, but I've never heard of crowdfunding as a way to generate franchise development. I mean, that's just super, super cool.
Yeah, and crowdfunding is fairly new, so we were, I think, one of the first ones to do it, which was it was just happenstance. It wasn't like we're like trying to innovate in the equity crowdfunding space. Mm-hmm. It's like, we need money, we're expanding. There's investors.
Horrified about the future, right? I mean, I remember building plans A, B, C, and D for my businesses in March or April, and it was scary because Plan D was not good. Like, Plan D was a scary one. And I'm like, I hope we never get to that. We got to Plan B. And that was it.
Yeah. So, for us, then, we're running ads on an equity crowdfunding campaign. We start adding all these investors. At the end of the day, after crowdfunding for almost a year, just over a year, we raised $1.5 million, which was great for an emerging brand. It wasn't used for brick and mortar ad spend or development costs. It was more to build out Tapville University, our training program, really document all of our processes, bring in the right support staff to help us scale. Yeah. We've got franchise business consultants now. We have, internal support, technology support. So it was really to build the infrastructure. It wasn't like we're putting up more company-owned stores. Right. But I think we took on over 2,000 investors. And then these investors are now like major brand ambassadors. Like our merchandise sales are coming from all over the U.S. now where we don't have locations, and it really helped promote the brand. So we learned a lot through that, but we met a lot of great people, and we got a lot of great support along the way. So
this is such an awesome story. Like when we get thrown into the unknown, the deep ends, I say because we never thought a pandemic like that would happen. So I'm guessing zombie apocalypse will really happen in our life now too. So when the zombie apocalypse happens, not if, when, we now know that there's great things that can happen. Because if you think about probably the success and why your crowdfunding campaign took off, it's because everybody is at home. They're glued to their devices. I mean, everybody's picking up different hobbies. They're looking at different ways to generate income, different investment strategies. Like you hit lightning in a bottle. You hit it.
It's luck on that one. I mean, it was. And to your point, I mean, they weren't spending the money out, so they had to spend it somewhere. So they're buying shares of Tapville.
So cool. So cool. So cool. Now, did you do another crowdfunding campaign after that, or did you just do the one?
We did one and then we extended it. So it was like one continuous campaign. So I think it was two parts. The first part we did, I think, $1 million, and the second part was like 500,000, something like that. So $1.5 million total spend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your training center, you're sitting in it now. So if people are watching on YouTube or wherever, it looks like you have this whole experiential, basically kitchen and everything. Is it designed so that your franchisees can come on and learn how to use all the technology, how to run the bit, like complete end to end, like running the business?
Exactly. So a big part of, obviously, you talk a lot about on your podcast is being able to train and replicate systems with franchisees. That was my background before I built training programs as part of what I did as a consultant. So we have, I think, a world-class program, even in its infancy. We bring franchisees in for training at Tapville University. They get immersed in the classroom with this technology, and then we take them to a store location, and they work in the store, obviously, to learn the operation. Yeah. I'm in Oak Brook, Illinois, and I'm looking out the window. The McDonald's headquarters is like right across the street, or they used to be.
Is it really?
So, yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's a bunch of condos now because they moved to Chicago, but it's right across the street.
Is that where McDonald's University used to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, across the street here. So.
And now you got Tapville University there. That's awesome. That's really cool.
We just got hired too from McDonald's. We hired somebody from Hamburger University. They just joined. Really? Our new director of Tapville University training came from McDonald's too. So.
That's awesome. And that's right. They call it Hamburger University. They call it Hamburger University. I want to talk about your different models, right? Because you've got. So how many different models are you guys offering on the franchise brand? You've got maybe just walk through what they are, because I think this will also get budding or people who are thinking about franchising to think differently. Like the mall idea was genius. I kind of call that like a kiosk, self-service kiosk. You've got the mobile model. Mm-hmm. You've got the brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. Are those your primary models, or are there more?
No, there could be more coming, but no. There's three models that we have, and each of these models have different capital requirements to start the business. Cool. So they're technically different types of operators, and they have different personas that want to run this type of business. Mm-hmm. At the top of the list is the restaurant concept. That's a brick and mortar. It's a full service restaurant, typically average around 5,000 square feet. Okay. You're going to have 30, 40 employees, and it's a restaurant concept basically.
Yeah. More capital, more management, oversight, team, infrastructure, all that, right?
We typically look for franchisees that have some level of experience in the hospitality industry, or have a partner that does, or if they want us to manage it within our markets, we'll do managed services for them.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. Some folks are more passive and they want to, have us manage it. We have an infrastructure in the Chicago market, so they just pay us a management fee.
That's cool.
But we don't offer that outside our market. It's a little hard to send people out there.
I would think so. Yeah, it'd be challenging. That's super cool. And then you've got the kiosk. Where are other people doing those besides like malls? Are you doing them at like events? Are you going to events, event? Well, probably not youth events, but too bad though, right?
Yeah, we do have, we have soda, craft soda. The kiosk is right now, we're calling them drink while you shop locations, and the capital requirements are a lot less for a kiosk, like a lot less. I think our low end is 160 right now in the FDD to maybe 250, depending on what they're going to build out. So you can get in on a kiosk pretty low. It's typically in a mall. We are working in some airport locations that are coming soon, and it can run single coverage. When it's not as busy. So it's an easier operation to run. And that's our kiosk operation. We try to take the kiosks and position them near restaurants to help cross promote the brand.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
If you think of a shopping mall, typical mall that we would go after would be 7 million visitors or more, because there's certain requirements that we have. Imagine 7 million people a year getting an eye on your location, your brand in a mall. It's like great visibility. It's, and you're making money.
Even if they don't buy, it's phenomenal branding. Phenomenal.
And then
because they're going to be curious, even if they don't buy, they're going to be curious if you're into booze or drinks or whatever. You're going to be like, that's really innovative,
Well, and we get franchise leads through there because they're like, what's that? Because it looks like an outer space kiosk with beer and taps and, all that good stuff and wine bottles. So we do get a lot of franchise leads that come through there. So that's our kiosk, offering. Okay. There's certain requirements, like you have to be in a certain mall. It's got to have a certain amount of volume. We're looking for good malls, not bad malls. There's a difference. And then the third one is the mobile tap room. This one is more of a weekend warrior job because most of the events take place on the weekends. So we have operators that have food truck businesses, restaurants. We have another group that operates a hair salon business. So they can do this on the weekends, roll the mobile tap room out, work different events, weddings, corporate events. And then it's not like a full-time role because events don't happen at 1:00 on a Tuesday afternoon. So,
that's super cool. Do you guys bring when you've got these? Is part of your model to bring in like regional or local beers as well? Like, what are the types of beers that are being served as you go through? I imagine the profile is different in California than it is in Kansas City than it is in New York.
Yeah, a lot of franchisors want to mandate the products, right? What we want to do, our initial slogan was embrace independence, and that was kind of our sort of message. It was about giving the customer control of the restaurant experience and letting them have an independent choice. It was about a franchisee being able to run their own business and be independent. And then the third meaning was that we would support independent breweries. So over half the beer, the only mandate that we have is over half the beer that you sell has to be certified independent. And you have to buy it from local breweries. So we try to support like local breweries in our markets.
I love that. I think that is such a cool thing because that's what the people want too. So you're giving the people what they want, but you're also embracing yourself and aligning yourself with other awesome brands that have that awareness within that demographic or that geographic area. Yeah, it's like you've got a lot of judo moves built into your business. little things that it's like, hey, you're doing it for this, but it also does this. Yeah, and whether intentionally or unintentionally, but it ends up being like a net positive for your business, which is super. It's a blessing, right? It really is. Yeah.
But over 6-7 years, these sort of moves weren't learned. It was over time. and you learn. And we've made a lot of mistakes. You don't know about those. We know about them. But those mistakes that we made, nobody else is paying for those in the future. Only
that's exactly correct.
We can teach people like what we did wrong and why you should do it this way. If they listen, we know how it works because we've made a lot of the mistakes like in 6 or 7 years. So
that's why I tell a lot of, prospective franchisees, I'm like, you're not only paying for the concept that works, but you're also paying to avoid all of the mistakes that we made. Like, and to just not have to do that. Like, we can tell you unequivocally that, hey, doing fill in the blank is a really bad idea. And here's why. I know that you think it's a great idea, but we've tried it and here's the outcome. Like, don't do it. And don't do it.
But no, we also don't want to sort of take ideas and squash them with franchisees. I'll tell you about a cool program we have. We have our ideas website. So all of our team members, all of our franchisees, they can submit ideas and it goes to our executive leadership team. Each week we go through all the ideas that are submitted and we decide, is this valid or is this something we did and didn't work or is this something that we can put on the roadmap? So our whole system is generating more innovation for us to build the brand. And some of our best ideas have come from frontline guest ambassadors, servers, GMs, because they're right there and they know. And it's just amazing that we can take those ideas and sort of like collect them in an organized fashion. So,
like I love the fact that you're so open to that because I don't know if you're familiar with a piece of software called High Level. It's a marketing automation piece of software that we use in our business. And I've been in the tech world since like the late 90s. I've never seen a software company build the product with their customers like they are. Same thing. Ideas, they get in this case, they don't even vote on them. They get democratically voted by the community. And then that's the order that they do them in. And I'm like, talk about being in alignment with your stakeholders. And it does two things. Number one, it brings amazing ideas to fruition that sometimes can be just life-changing, but also you're building this culture of like, just this incredible culture through bringing equity investors into the business by hearing from people, by not just hearing from people, but evaluating those on a weekly basis. Because I think sometimes there's like, you remember the old comment boxes, right? Yeah. You drop your comment card. I'm like, I'm sure those go into the trash, but when you hear that, you're like, hey, no, we listen to this feedback as a management team like once a week.
Yeah.
That means you're staying close to the business. And that's super admirable. And I think that a lot of people that are early in their journey, and I can tell you, I've been in franchise systems that were very closed off from feedback, as well as franchise systems that are very open. And you are going to have a heck of a lot more fun and have a more rewarding business if you choose to have it open and have that feedback loop, because the best ideas sometimes do come from people that you do not expect.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I mean, we're so sophisticated with it. We have a HubSpot CRM system to track all the ideas. It goes into a queue and there's a tracking process, like a pipeline. But I love it. It doesn't mean we're going to do every idea. It just means we want to hear from our system about what would make it better. Right. And that's so important that we do in the culture. But one of the things that, if you think about all the tech and it's all cool and, but it's about building a culture and a system of people that share the same values that we share. And when we look for franchisees, liquid capital, net worth, all those things you got to check. But we're also looking for people that share the same values that we do, because we're a very values-based company, and in our leadership team and even our down to our store management for our company-owned stores, we live the core values in our company, and we try to find franchisees that share those same core values so we can grow the system, as a team and stuff. So that's one of the things that is really important to us as a company, that we build that culture. And as we expand to these new locations and new markets, that culture lives on with our franchise partners. We call our franchisees franchise partners. We don't use the term franchisees. So, but that's something to think about.
I've always told my partners, I mean, my business partner in our franchise is an attorney. He's like, well, they're not our partners. I'm like, dude, we got a legal agreement and we're as close to partners as you can get without legally being partners. Like more so than partners, because partners can check out. Like, you can have a business partner that checks out. you guys are like, we're so dependent upon each other in the franchisee-franchisor relationship that the alignment is off the charts. Like it's actually better than a partnership, in my opinion, because we need each other, you know?
Yeah,
we definitely don't exist without each other.
Yeah, that's what we look at it. It's not like they don't serve us; we serve each other, and we're going to be successful. And the more locations we open, the more they're successful. Everybody, the net value or the net ad, the net whatever you want to call it, grows with the system. So I think that's what we're really focused on is the culture. I mean, we've got great technology, and that's easy for us, but it's the culture that we really want to focus on with our franchise partner.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome, man. This has been super cool episode. Like when you and I were talking beforehand, I'm like, this is going to be awesome. Talking about the way that you've gone from management consulting and technology, and then integrating that into your business to make it so that it just runs better, down to your different models that you've rolled out as a result of the world changing. And then also that equity play and the unexpected benefit of having just like awesome people flying the flag that are not franchisees, but they're wearing your swag because they're owners. They care. So this has been full of nuggets of gold. I've learned a ton. If people want to reach out or learn more about your organization, like what's the best place for them to go to learn more?
Yeah, tapville.com. That's the easiest
Tapville.com.
Tapville.com. So tapville.com.
Simple. Well, Joe, this is thank you so much for taking time to visit with us today. I know that the listeners are going to get a couple nuggets of gold, and I only just want at least one, and there's like 7 in this episode. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, as well as just doing awesome work, man. We need more people like you that have this vibrancy. They're problem solvers going out and creating infrastructure for entrepreneurs to succeed.
Cool. And my pleasure. Thanks, Kevin, for having me. And I do appreciate our conversation. And what we always say at Tapville is cheers.
Cheers. With that, cheers, everybody. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. I know that there's one person in the world that you're thinking of right now that would benefit from hearing Joe's story. So go ahead and do me a favor right now, whatever platform you're on, text a link to them and say, you need to listen to this. And then my second ask is, if you enjoy what we're doing at Franchise My Business, we are a newer podcast. We're in it for the long haul. We're dropping twice a week for you to drizzle you with value. Please just subscribe on the platform of choice. That's it. Until next time, I'm your host. I can't wait for everybody to hear this episode. So thank you very much. Have a great day.